Good evening, everyone. I am Molly. I'm the Executive Director here at the RAL National Association. I'm here with Randy Schellenberg. He's in Canada, lovely Canada right now. Randy is the owner of Comfortek Seating. And let me tell you guys, this has been an eye-opener experience for me, just being introduced to Randy and Comfortek in general. He's going to touch on some subjects today that many of us have probably never even thought about. And especially as owners, I think it's very important for us to be able to understand the life of a caregiver and also a resident, right? And being able to respect and give them dignity and do everything we can for them as their caregiver, as the homeowners. So I can't wait for him to share with you guys what he's going to share today. I will give you a couple of little tips if you have questions. Over on the right-hand side, there is a questions bar that you can type your questions in throughout the presentation. If you have any issues with sound or something going on that I can try and navigate you through, I will try and help you as best I can. There is a couple of different audio options. If you lose audio, you can press the audio tab and click phone call to call in so that you can hear for your phone, but you can still see the presentation on your computer. Otherwise, Randy does have a special prize for everyone who's here today. If you guys want to pick a number between 1 and 1,000 and type it into the questions bar, I will keep these throughout the whole presentation. At the end, Randy will show us which number that is, and we will see who won that prize. And Randy's going to talk about what that prize is during this presentation. So I'm super excited for whoever wins, and I'm also excited for you guys to see this information because I think it is extremely valuable for your marketing and for your caregivers and for your residents. So Randy, thank you so much for being here with us today, and I'm going to pass it off over to you.
Thank you so much, Molly, and welcome. I'm glad you've taken an hour out of your schedule to have a look at how do we make meal times more enjoyable. If I can just begin on this first slide, I would identify specialized seating for seniors. It's obvious that we're dealing with seniors. We're dealing with individuals that have a mobility limitation, but I think what you'll be able to appreciate is that these chairs are designed for caregivers. The lead question that we had was, how do you move a seated person up to a table? And I want to go through some of the aspects that are involved in terms of a person that has lost some of their mobility. I'll start by making this mathematical equation, which says E equals MC squared. It's probably the most common formula that people know, and that is that energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Don't ask me anymore, that's it. But let me throw out two other equations that you may be able to appreciate as being equally valid, and that is personal mobility equals independence, which in turn equals self-worth and dignity. And let me contrast that with the opposite, and that is lack of mobility equals dependence on others, being a burden, possibly being a nuisance, which means that there's lack of self-worth and dignity. And so as we look at it as individuals that are involved in caring for seniors, caring for individuals that have limited mobility, it's all about how do we provide care and still retain their integrity, their dignity, as well as their self-worth. That's the thing that we're all trying to be able to put together. I hope nobody's going to hold this against me, but this term usually garner some understanding of what we're putting together, and that is we're all on this journey to the gurney. As we were growing up, our parents couldn't wait for us to be independent. Didn't matter if it was 3, we had to crawl earlier, we had to walk earlier than our neighbors, we had to go to school earlier. We waited for age 12, we waited for age 16 when we had our driver's license. Everything was moving, independence. And the ultimate independence, I guess, is turning 18 or 21, depending on which state you're in or province you're in, so that you could vote and drink. And, it continued to move until you get into your 50s and 60s. and all of a sudden that begins to change. And so at some point in time, we are all on this journey to having less mobility, and how is it that we respond in that manner? I hear a number of times that people talk about, oh, my dad, my mother, my friend, they're just stubborn. They're not willing to listen. And I'm just saying, I don't think that's the case. They're probably more just self-reliant, and they're just resisting the fact that they're no longer what they once were. And so it's up to us to figure out a way of being able to assist them, guide them through this particular process, but make sure that they still have their self-worth and their dignity. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, our focus in designing chairs was the caregiver. Those of us that are independent, we will sit down at a chair, and without even thinking, we'll sit down, we'll hold onto the chair, we'll scoot forward, we'll lift the chair, and boom, we're at the table. But once you've lost that ability, it's all about the person that stands behind the chair. And if you look at the person that stands behind the chair, now you're looking at a whole lot of actions that involves pushing, shoving, twisting, in terms of being able to move that particular seated person up to a table. How is it that we can allow them to do that particular job in an easier manner? And so that's exactly what it is that we were looking at when we ended up designing our chairs. Next slide, please. Today's reality is that residents feel that they are often a burden to staff. They're a nuisance, they're inconvenient. They most certainly do not want to be singled out. Caregivers, they experience time constraints. We've got X number of minutes time to be able to get this meal taken care of because there's other activities that are happening. We have a lack of physical strength. You have a person of 300 pounds. How do you assist them? You want to, that's your desire, that's your job, but you can only do so and so much in terms of putting it together. And often we'll have ourselves outdated equipment. And again, residents are typically heavier than they've been in the past. Next, please. Oh, and family members, I guess reality is that we're expecting our loved ones to be treated with dignity and respect. That's just an absolute given is what we have. This is the way chairs are designed, and this is the way chairs are used. A four-legged chair has never been designed to move. A four-legged chair requires friction on the floor to be able to keep itself upright. And yet, when we're dealing with seniors or when we're dealing with people that have lost their mobility, the issue is somehow we have to figure out a way now to get that chair to move, to slide, to be pushed. For baby boomers such as myself, when I started this, well, the wheelchair is the answer. Place them in a wheelchair and everybody's life is easier. But that's when we heard from residents, we heard from family members that to a senior, a wheelchair is considered one appliance before the gurney. And so wheelchairs are not an option. And so as we were designing our product, it was not a matter of saying, can we make our chairs roll easier? Because that already happens. My guess is that most of you are sitting in a chair similar to mine, and it wheels and rolls in all manners. Exactly the features that we have, but these chairs don't do it safely. And so for us, the issue was we had to figure out that balance between ease of movement and safety for the resident or for the caregiver without compromising any dignity. So that was the balance that we had to end up putting together. Next slide. Daily challenges of caregivers include all facets of life. We're dealing with mealtime ones, and so how do you safely move a seated person up to or away from a table? How do you assist a person that's using a walker or a person of 300 pounds get seated at the table? And how do you assist at mealtime when residents are seated in different sizes of jerry chairs? How do you accommodate them all at the table? And the fourth challenge, how do you provide care without risk of personal injury or without risk of damaging chairs and floors? Let me give you some options. Next slide, please. How to assist a person using a walker get seated at a table? I'll feature this chair a little later on, but this is our T2 swivel chair. And so you can see that the chair is positioned at 3 o'clock to the table. This particular case, the individual is able to be seated with the walker. The seat turns independent of the legs, and so it locks every 90 degrees. So it locks at 12 o'clock, it locks at 3 o'clock. And now we have the chair caddy that just allows the caregiver to be able to move that chair up to a table and to lock it. Next slide. How to assist a person of 300 pounds. And so here what you have is exactly the same chair, but we've removed the caddy off of the bottom of it. And so if you've got a person that's got a good sized tummy on them, this is the swivel chair. This is literally our safest chair because it locks in all manners. But again, the chair typically is at 12 o'clock. You move it to 3 o'clock where it locks in place. The person can be seated by themselves with the assistance of a caregiver. And then by releasing the lock, they can turn themselves into a table. And by doing so, their tummy's already going to be touching the table. So your heaviest residents actually require no assistance on behalf of staff in terms of being able to put the effort into push and shove and get them up to a table. Next slide. How to assist at meal times when residents are seated in different styles of jerry chairs. Maybe you have some individuals that are seated in wheelchairs. Does the video not play on this one, Molly? Maybe we've got it. Oh, maybe.
I'm trying to press play on it. I'm not sure if it's.
Maybe we've got it. Maybe we've just got to disconnect. What we have here is a table. This particular one's got 4 leaves, and each of the leaves goes up and down independently of the other one, and it also extends. And so if you've got somebody that's seated in a jerry chair and they're a shorter person, you can adjust the table and pull it out to exactly where they're going to have it. And so the dignity and self-worth is that they can probably assist themselves without fear of spilling because the tabletop is positioned relative to where they are, not the other way around. Even you and I, if we were to eat some soup and we had the bowl too far away from us, the likelihood of us doing it, spill free is remote, even more so for a person that's living in a wheelchair. Again, if you were to look at this one, you can also see that if you had a setting where you have somebody in a jerry chair and somebody in a standard chair, they'd actually be able to eat at the same table at the same time because the top can go up to 30 inches or it can also go all the way down to 24 inches. And so that's exactly what you have on that one. Next slide. In the butterfly table series, there's 3 different styles. You can see that we've got a 2-person one. Getting lots of requests for that one, even in terms of long-term care providing facilities where they are saying we have to make our dining room smaller, we have to come up with different facilities, and we have to spread out our residents. They're using that 2-person table, your standard classic 4-in-1, whereby you've got 4 people seated at a table. And then there's a double pedestal where you can position the arms in a different manner. The configuration that I'm showing over there is typically the configuration that is used in an activity center, whereby you've got one caregiver or activity coordinator standing at this end of the table, and they're just able to reach over the table to accommodate 3 other or 4 other people as they're all participating in the crafts. Next slide. Let's walk through a few chairs that are specifically tied into the T2 series of chairs. We've got several facilities here in Canada that have somewhere between 6 and 10 beds in them. And this is one of the dining rooms that was created in Medicine Hat, Alberta, some 90 minutes down the road from us. And so you can see that this is a typical residential application. And again, the struggle that they had was, how do we accommodate people that are coming in walkers, that have their rollators, have their wheelchairs? How do we allow them to work within a confined space? And again, in terms of bringing people up to a table, because of the way that these chairs turn and swivel and roll, they could select which chairs they wanted to have in their application. This particular photo, we have actually 3 chairs that swivel, and they had 3 standard regular chairs is what they put into their system. Next slide. The T2 series looks like this. There's actually one more that we're going to be adding to it later. And you can see the numbers in the bottom are saying between 70 and 80%, and then 20 to 30%, you don't have usually a mobility option. As we mentioned earlier, nobody wants to be singled out by sitting in that special chair. I just want to be one of the guys. I just want to be one of the team that's here. And if you look at these things from the seat up, all of the chairs look exactly the same. They're only different from the seat down. And so nobody ends up being singled out by saying, oh, you're the one that's having to sit in that special chair. Those particular percentages probably won't hold true in residential assisted living communities, because you're looking at between 6 and 15 chairs within one space. And you may actually be needing 70 to 80% with a mobility feature on them. But in a long-term care environment, 70% of the chairs are usually your standard armchair, and then we have the different chairs that we can be putting together. Next slide. And click it one more time, Molly. The chair caddy is the piece that goes at the bottom of this chair. It's a patented product to Comfortek seating. It includes 4 wheels, most of which can break depending on the request that you have in terms of how mobile you want to have these chairs. It adjusts, it fits underneath the footprint of a chair, so there's no tripping hazard. It raises the chair some 3/4 of an inch above the floor, is what it does. So it really is a way of being able to take a chair and be able to make it move for the very first time, is what we have. The chair caddy just might become, the best friend in the hands of a caregiver, because again, it eliminates all of the pushing, the shoving, the twisting, and the pulling. You'll see a little later in here where we actually have it as a retrofit piece, and it might be something that in your facility you'd be interested in saying, we just need the caddy attached to the bottom of our existing chairs, and in most cases we can accommodate exactly what that is. Next one, please. This is the T2 chair, known as, we call it the CC1, minor detail. The significant thing about this particular chair is that the brakes are always on. The front wheels are always locked until the caregiver depresses the bar, which is at the back of the chair. And so as she holds the bar, the wheels are released. She is able to move the resident up to the table. The very moment she lets go, the front wheels again come to a locked position. And so it becomes one of these chairs whereby when you change staff or you've got a shift change, is that chair safe? Have the brakes been locked? What is the status? We're not quite sure. With this particular chair, we know that they're always applied, etc. Can you play that video one more time, Molly, or is it also jammed? There it is. So you'll see that she's depressing the handle right there. So it's right in the middle of the back. She lets go, and that activates the wheels, making it easier for Ed to be seated. And then it's just a matter of being able to move him up to a table. Next slide. Here we have the same chair. It fits into a slightly different price point. It has a different feature, and that is it has the caddy, but it has the caddy with 4 active wheels where the back brakes are foot locked. And so it isn't a chair that you can control by the back, but the locks are applied onto the bottom of the chair by the caregiver's feet. And so again, it requires a caregiver assist. The chair needs to be locked. You have to establish your own protocols in terms of making sure that this chair is always safe when your residents are coming. But again, the process of being seated at a table, you can see even by that picture that the seat is completely open to the traffic area. You don't have the chair or the table half under the table or too close to the table. You can literally open that particular chair so that if somebody's coming in needing assistance, coming in with a walker, they can very easily be seated. And then it's just a matter of being able to turn them up to a table. Next slide. The next two, we've seen this one already earlier, but I'll just talk about it a little bit more. And then it's made without that the caddy on the bottom. But this is a chair where the seat swivels separately from the base. The other two chairs, it was a solid chair where the caddy did the movement in the bottom. But you can see with this that it's just very easy to turn the chair from 3 o'clock to 12 o'clock. It locks automatically. And if you're a slighter person, you'll want to just move them up to a table. The reason for that movement is just to make sure that they are presented close enough to the table so that there's not going to be any spilling. As we mentioned earlier, if you're a larger person, that isn't something that's necessary, but that's just exactly what you have. Play that video one more time, Molly, please. In home care settings, we have a very interesting application with this particular chair. So right now the seat is at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. They will turn it to 12 o'clock and move him up to a table. In a lot of home care settings, what they use this chair for is the seated person can move the chair to 3 o'clock and then turn it all the way to 6 o'clock. And then using their hands, they can pull themselves back and forth. And so if you have a situation where you've got two work tables and you've got a work table on the right and a work table on the left, you can actually use the same chair where the person can be seated. They can turn themselves towards the one table. They can turn back to the 3 o'clock position all the way to the 6 o'clock, and then they can walk themselves forward and bring them back in that manner. The big difference between this caddy and the ones that we saw previously is that it's the swivel that does all the moving, because the chair caddy itself runs on railroad tracks. It only goes forwards and backwards. And the reason for that is, play it again, Molly. I just want to point out one point that just makes a difference. So the chair goes lengthwise, but when Ed sits down, we don't want that chair to run away from him. And so he's actually sitting down 90 degrees or perpendicular to the motion of the wheels. And so that's why that chair is safe for him to be seated in. He can hold on to the arms. He can spin himself towards the table. And now the caregiver is able to roll him. So this particular caddy does not swivel and turn. It just rolls and locks. And so it moves forwards and backwards in that manner. Next slide. This is the swivel chair. Again, this is the safest chair we have. This chair weighs 42 pounds. It has a swivel that goes between, locks every 90 degrees. So you can do it from 12 o'clock. You can take it to 9 o'clock. You can take it to 3 o'clock. In this particular setting, there's an awful lot of room on all sides of the table. So it's not really as noticeable in terms of what it does. But you can appreciate that if you're in a smaller environment where you can't access the back of the chair, or there's a wall that's right behind you, there's no need for extra space behind that particular chair for the caregiver. And so again, the chair opens to 3 o'clock. It's locked in place. Ed can be seated. He can hold on to the arms. The chair is wide enough not to tip. And then it's a matter of the caregiver can move, trip the lever, as well as the seated person. The interesting thing about this particular chair is that the lever can be twisted or can be released by the seated person as well as by the caregiver if necessary. And we've got a goodly number of testimonials from people that are saying, this really works well for one of our residents because they want to do things by themselves. They're not completely to the point of saying, I'm dependent for something on, or I don't want to be dependent on staff for everything. And so maybe it's a minor thing, but they can trip that lever and they can turn it to turn themselves toward the table is what we end up with. Next slide. The T2 series basically has these numbers of chairs. And so you can see if you start on the upper left-hand corner, there's your standard chair. And so that's your typical arm chair. And then we have all of the different mobility features as it comes together. In the top right-hand corner is the product that we call the caddy. And the caddy is designed in that manner so that it's actually attachable. to existing chairs. I'll hold this up. I hope you can see part of this. This is that device that makes it completely retrofittable to existing wood chairs or existing metal chairs. And so if your situation is such that if you're looking for chairs that the caregiver is responsible to do most of the movement, that's the type of thing that can end up occurring. The whole middle row, those are all of the chairs that swivel. And there are 2 chairs there that don't have a footstool. Those seats are at 18 inches. We can also design that chair so that it comes to you at 20 inches high. When we make it 20 inches high, we also provide a footstool because it's frequently the shorter people that like the higher chair. It's interesting how that works because it's just that much easier to get out of a chair that has a higher seat. But if it's used by a shorter person, they also have a tendency that their legs fall asleep. And so that's why we provide the footstool for them. So underneath the table, they can rest their feet on that one. The whole bottom row, those are our bariatric chairs. And so here we've got chairs that go up to 30 inches wide. They can accommodate 450 pounds. And so you've got the exact same caddy mounted underneath that particular product. So again, if you look at residents that you have that are on the higher side, that's more work for what your resident staff have, etc. Your heaviest residents are now actually the easiest ones to be able to accommodate. I don't know if it's very clear in terms of that image, but the first 2 chairs, they are controlled by a caddy that has a foot lock on them. The 2 chairs that are on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's a hand symbol on that one. And what happens there is that the locking device for those last 2 chairs is actually in the hands of the seated person. The chair that you're probably sitting in right now has a lever control in terms of being able to lift the pneumatic cylinder and the piston. And so exactly at that same location, we have a little toggle lever that when you push it forward, the front wheels are locked. When you pull it back, the front wheels are released. And so the person has the ability of being able to foot propel themselves up to a table, maybe around their room, etc. When they get to where they are, they can trip the lever. And once again, they can have the front wheels locked. And so that particular chair is locked in that manner. The operation of all of these chairs, and you can't really see it here, if I was to describe the difference between a car and a forklift. A car, you have the front wheels that do the turning. On a typical forklift, you have the rear wheels that do the turning. And the reason we've done that is so that we can create a chair that is stable. If a chair accommodating a senior or an overweight senior is going to tip, it's going to tip because the front wheels are rotating and maybe you've got your weight pushed forward and the caster is brought back and the chair is going to have a tendency to tip. With our design, we've got the front wheels as wide as we can have them. We've got them as far forward as we can have them, and they stay fixed in that particular position. So we have maximum lateral capacity in terms of exactly what we're looking at doing. The care person is the one standing behind, and because the back wheel is now caster, now it makes it relatively easy to even move a person of 400 pounds around a room or up to a table. I've got about 4 more slides that we're going to be going through. I'm not sure what additional questions you have, etc. But if you've got some questions and you want to start sending them to Molly, I'd be happy to respond in any manner when we get to that. And let me just give you an idea here of price, so that you have a bit of an idea as to how this process works. Just back it up for a second, if you could, Molly. We have a website where we have all of our products. At the end, we'll give you a discount code. It's actually RAL15, so there's a 15% discount off of the prices that are posted on our website. And those prices include delivery to your location. The very top corner, you have the standard chair, and so that has a 22-inch wide chair, is delivered for just over the $200 mark. And then all of the mobility features, you're adding anywhere between $150 and $300 to those particular chairs. And so, they work in that particular manner. And so that just gives you a bit of an idea as to exactly what you have. The most common chair, again, is in the second row, the first chair, and that one has a landed cost to you of $395. Next slide, please.
And just so everyone knows, I put in the chat, so you should have a chat tab, the exact website and the promo code for you guys to access as well.
Thank you. Just flip all three of them, if you would, Molly. As I mentioned earlier, there's never been a four-legged chair that's designed to move. Every piece of furniture that is out there today is designed for a mobile person. There's been very few designs done for people that have lost mobility. It's just a different world. And so with these particular features, I trust that you'll be able to appreciate that with these designs, there's going to be reduced workplace injuries. There's going to be reduced OH&S or workers' compensation up here in Canada claims, less overtime, less absenteeism, significantly less stress and anxiety for both the caregiver as well as the resident. And furniture replacement and flooring replacements are down because each of our chairs comes with a 20-year performance guarantee. And so you're going to be able to have products that's going to work with you long into the lifespan, whereas typically chairs that are wood that are being pushed and shoved may only have a warranty that goes anywhere between 3 and 5 years. So that's the financial side. Creating in terms of staff, we're going to have a safer workplace. It's going to have a more enjoyable mealtime routine. It's going to be a healthier work environment, and there's literally a better retention of staff and residents. We have one provider. This isn't a care home because we're new in terms of talking to the care home, but a provider in Kansas. And if I could just take a moment, I'm just going to read a paragraph or two that he has sent to us, and that a care home administrator shared the following. Daily, his community receives tour requests from families searching for a new home for their parent. Typically, these tour requests occur around meal times. To demonstrate the level of care his community provides, a complete set of chairs with mobility features was placed into the dining room. Specifically, he did not want staff to push, pull, shove, or twist when assisting a seated person up to a table. His rationale: by demonstrating a higher level of patient-centered care for each resident in the dining room, even residents with limited mobility, family members can expect that same level of care to be shown throughout their community. The dining room is one of those few public areas where people can demonstrate what it is that we're trying to do, because once you get into the bedroom and the bathroom, all the levels of care are private, as they should be. And so this is one opportunity that they have just to be able to show that dignity and respect in terms of how they're putting it together. And so then the nurturing families and residents appreciate exactly what's happening, as they're certainly experiencing an increased sense of dignity and self-worth. Next slide, please. Within your community, there's going to be reduced sense of anxiety for both the staff and the resident. There's going to be reduced workplace-related injuries. You've got 10 seconds to an enjoyable meal. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but I'll raise it here. Residents that you may be caring for that have Alzheimer's. The challenge is to develop a relationship bond with them, and they're not always hearing the messages correctly, and so they end up bucking the system. And with this particular chair, it's just such a gradual opportunity for you to bring them to a table, as it doesn't do all the jarring that typically ends up occurring. And so that you end up doing, you establish best practices for the care of mobility challenged residents. Next slide. And so within your community, how many residents require special mealtime assistance? And just asking the question, how many residents require the use of a walker or a rollator? The walker or the rollator is a very interesting product, as it's money that people have spent to tell you that they're not stable on their feet, that they risk falling, that they fear falling. And so because of all of that, they're using a walker, and that's what it's been designed for. But that very same person, when they get seated at a table, if they've lost the ability to walk and maintain their balance, they probably don't have the cognitive skills or the strength to move themselves up to a table. And so that would just be a classic example of somebody that is saying they could benefit significantly from some of these mobility features. How many residents do you have that are 300 pounds? Again, the 300-pound individual is usually the ones that people shy away from. We've got examples of care homes that have phoned in terms of saying, if I can't find a chair, I have to ask this resident to leave because we don't have the physical ability to be able to care for him. We may be able to offer you some options that otherwise would not be available. How many residents sit in wheelchairs? Simply because the caregiver has no other way of bringing them up to a table. And is that a measure of dignity and self-worth? To some family members, it is. And then how many residents require specialized attention for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's? Not all residents that have Alzheimer's would benefit from this chair because there are so many different levels and degrees of it. But virtually everybody that has Parkinson's, that neurological disease that causes you to start and stop, these particular chairs, because of the rolling action, just make it that much easier in terms of being able to bring people up to a table. And the last slide, specialized seating for seniors. We trust that this resonates with you in terms of being able to identify the people that you're caring for. But I trust you'll also be able to see that it's for the caregivers. This might actually be one of the most selfish products that you buy, that it's actually designed for your staff more than it is for the individuals that are going to benefit from it. But everybody's going to benefit significantly from exactly what it is. At the bottom, and you're going to get this link tomorrow again, if you're looking for more videos, at comfortek.com/video, we actually have a bit of a 5-minute tutorial that summarizes what I've done, and it walks you through the differences between the chairs. And so you'll see chairs that swivel and turn. You'll see chairs that roll and lock. You'll see chairs that swivel and lock. And so we've got an individual video there, and so you can have a look at the features of the chair, and then you can ascertain which is the best chair for our environment. Comfortek.com/better/5-in-1. That's an animated video, and what that will show you is 4 chairs at one table. And so the standard chair, the reason it says 5-in-1, there's the standard chair, but then we'll literally show you how all 4 of these other chairs fit at the same table. They look like it's part of the environment, but again, you get to select the chair that matches the immobility level of the residents that you're caring for. So that's what we have as 5-in-1. And the video that we didn't add to this, and I'll certainly get this off to Molly, is literally the video that shows just the caddy. And if you're looking at the caddy in terms of saying we want to be able to attach that to our existing chairs, or is it suited for our style of chairs, we'd be able to have a look at that, and we could put that particular one together for you as well. So my thanks for your time. I trust this was information that was of value. I trust I was able to put this into context. And again, as we look at individuals that are getting older, it is all about the caregiver, because once that mobility has been lost, it is up to the person that stands behind the chair that's doing double duty, that's doing the difficult work. And I trust you can see how this is going to be able to benefit them significantly. Thank you for your time. Certainly open to questions.
Perfect. All right, so we'll go through these few questions that have come in. If anybody else has questions, feel free. I'll just keep going through them, and then we'll go through the winner for the T2 swivel chair, correct?
Correct.
Is that this chair we see right here?
It'll be exactly this chair. So this is a swivel chair with the caddy. So the most popular chair we have is the one that doesn't have the caddy, but this is the one that offers the most amount of mobility, etc. So this is exactly the chair.
Okay, so the first question I think is about the 4-leaf table, and it's talking about the section. So does each section move higher and lower, or just lower into one standard height? Okay.
The standard height of a table is 30 inches, and so the range of these tables goes from 24 inches to 36.
Perfect. All right, and then this one says, can residents apply for Medicare to pay for these chairs? Is it considered a necessity?
They can apply, obviously, but they won't be successful. The there are so many wheelchairs out there, and as soon as you add wheels to a chair, they're just classified as wheelchairs. And as these are our patents, as these are our designs, I was telling Molly earlier, essentially this particular chair that you're looking at, was designed and finished on Christmas Day of 2015. It's new to the marketplace. It hasn't been understood by most of Medicare or Medicaid, and so they're not adding this particular one into their system. We have had a goodly number of occupational therapists and physical therapists who have been applying for reimbursement through different insurance companies, and a lot of people have received monies in that particular manner, but not through Medicare or Medicaid.
Perfect. All right. The next question says, can the vinyl be replaced when it wears out? How do you handle that situation?
It can. All of our vinyls, and we actually have some cloth customers as well, are all health grade graded materials. The warranty on the chair is 20 years. The warranty on all of the mobility components is 15 years. And then the warranty that we provide on the fabric is what the fabric mill provides. And yes, for a cost of about $45, you can replace a seat in the back. And at that point in time, we wouldn't just replace the vinyl. We'd actually replace the vinyl, the foam, and the plywood, and then you would just attach it to that chair.
Okay, and back to fabric, they're complementing the fabric pattern that's here, but do you have other options, and how easy is it for them to reupholster to match their current interiors? Have you had people do that?
Absolutely. You'll find on our website that we have, I think we run 5 different patterns, 3 of which are solid. This particular one, we really liked ARC, put together by Momentum, but we work with every mill. And so if you've got an interior designer, if you've got a decorator that's been working with you, we also do an awful lot of COMs. And so the selection of fabric that you're looking for is something that we do on a daily basis, not an issue.
And this is a great compliment here. So we have somebody here that actually looks like they use one of these chairs. It said, not only do residents in assisted living need this, or seniors, she's needed it since 25 years old and currently uses it. Accessibility, dignity, even security when you stand out is at risk. So there's a review right there already for you. Look at that.
Thank you.
All right. So is there specialized training available to use for training our staff to use these chairs?
We have an online tutorial. It's a YouTube link that is 5 minutes in length. Very straightforward in terms of how it happens. All of the chairs are fully tested and assembled at the factory in Victoria, Virginia before they're shipped out. To eliminate oversized charges, the back comes out and lies flat on the seat. And so that fits into the back, and there's 2 bolts that are required in terms of being able to attach it, onto the chair. So that's how that whole process comes together. And then I said, there's that online tutorial that will just give you a very quick idea as to exactly how it all works.
And this deal that you're doing right now, which reminding everyone in the chat, is the link to the website with the promo code. And I will send that out again tomorrow with the recording for this presentation. But this deal that you're doing, is this going to be available later? So we do have some people that are in the process of building their homes. They don't know what they may need just yet.
RAL 15 will be live for the next 6 months for RAL members. So absolutely, that'll all be part of the program.
Perfect. There's your answer to that. Can the person sitting in the chair move it as well, or only the person behind it? You do have the lever, right? Can help them move it themselves.
And that's why you'll see when we look at it, when you walk through the rest of the videos, there are some chairs that are very clearly defined as caregiver assist. And then there are chairs that are identified as independent use. And so when it's the caregiver assist, everything happens behind, and so the seated person doesn't have the option of being able to access that. But on the chairs that have the independent use, the lever's on the side, similar to your present chair, and that's the one that they have the opportunity of being able to do themselves.
And that's on the chair that you're giving away. This is the T2 swivel chair. It's on that chair, right? The independent swivel.
Yep.
Yeah. It looks like just the chair that you're seeing right here. All right, so it looks like that is all the questions I have so far. We can go through the giveaway number real quick. If anybody didn't get to enter their number, pick a number between 1 and 1,000. Go ahead.
Too late. Maybe
Too
somebody's
late.
going to jump it. There it is.
Oh, too late. Oh, goodness. What's the number?
757.
757. Oh, I got a 777.
There we are.
777. All right, Andrea Cassidy. Andrea Cassidy, you just won this chair. Okay, perfect. And Andrea, I will send your information over to Randy and you guys can work out how to get that chair. She says, awesome. Yes,
Perfect.
It is awesome, Andrea. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm so excited to see it used in your own home. And who knows, maybe you'll get a whole set of them then, right? Okay, well, that's wonderful, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Randy, for being here. This was incredible. Like I've always said, your guys' team is amazing. All of these graphics are amazing. These videos that you have on here to show exactly how they're used. It's just a wonderful product, and I can't wait to see how you guys are able to use them in your care homes. So, Andrea, congratulations again, and Randy, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Appreciate your time. Thank you all.